I have a confession to make. I tell a lot of lies as a quilter. For each lie, I'm going to tell you why it's toxic and give you some solutions as well. So let's get started. Lie number one, I am not buying any more fabric until I use absolutely everything I have. This lie is something I tell myself often. There's a few reasons why it's damaging. One, it's just not true because I end up buying fabric, then I feel guilty that I buy fabric and it becomes this terrible cycle. And the other reason is because it limits us in ways that I don't feel are very healthy. So for example, if you're going, say, to a shop hop or something like that through your guild or whatever, and you're going with friends and you choose not to buy fabric, first of all, they're probably buying fabric. So that kind of makes you feel bad too. Second, you're seeing so many beautiful things. And third, most importantly, if you buy fabric, use it in a project, that project then becomes part of the memory of the experience you had with your friends. Quilts are more than just a piece of art. And in part, the medium, whatever fabrics we use, are woven, for lack of a better word, into that quilt. I love looking at quilts that I made that also have other memories of when I bought the fabric, how I bought the fabric. It just brings back a flood of memories. There are solutions, however. For example, I really want to make this quilt. I actually bought this pattern at a quilt show in March. So recently I went to the Oaks Quilt Show in Philadelphia and I bought the fabric. And now when I make this quilt, it will have this wonderful memory of not only the first quilt show I went to this year, but the second as well. That'll bring back a flood of memories about the friends and all of that. And it's just wonderful. Lie number two, I'm gonna make everyone on my Christmas list a quilt. I am so guilty of this. Well, I used to be really guilty of it. Now I'm much better, and now I make smaller projects, but I'm jumping ahead of myself. This is toxic for many reasons. First being, if you don't succeed, you feel guilty. Second, you might have 1 or 2 quilts done, and you meant to make 6, say, for holiday gifts. You can't really give those 2 gifts, and then everybody else is gonna feel bad, then that adds to this whole other layer, and it just becomes an absolute mess. My best solution for this is to make smaller projects for everybody. So I have some of the coasters that I made. I'll put the links to the videos in my description, and I also have it on my blog. I have my reversible table runner here, fall and Christmas. This makes great gifts. There's these that I've made. I made a variation of this. These are great because these are doable. You can make 6, 10, whatever it may be, and people love these. Lie number 3, I am saving absolutely every piece of scrap that I make because I'm gonna make scrap quilts. Now, admittedly, I have a lot of scraps, but I have figured out a solution to this lie that I tell myself too. But let's first talk about why it's toxic. Again, we have guilt. Guilt's like a running theme throughout this. We have a complete narrative going on in our head. Fabric's expensive. We really shouldn't waste. We can't get rid of it. We can't throw it out. Who would want it? I don't want to give somebody else a burden. All these things being said in our head. And in reality, it's fabric. So get rid of it if you aren't going to use it. There are plenty of places to donate it to if you don't feel comfortable throwing it out. You can use it as stuffings for pet beds. You can give it to friends who love getting scraps. Senior centers, high schools, there's so many places that will accept your scraps. So one thing I do as a solution to this is I have a limited scrap storage system. Let me show you. I have bins like this that I keep my scraps in, and when they're full, like this one, you can see it's overflowing. It's time to cull through this scrap bin. I'll pull out the fabrics, I'll decide what I want to get rid of, and my goal is to close this bin. And I'll take all the scraps that I do not want and I give them to a friend who really loves scraps. Have limited space, and that works for scrap control, and it eliminates the guilt because you can keep the scraps you want. Lie number 4. This one is a doozy, and this one is kind of still raw for me. And the lie is I will make 1 block a day for a limited amount of time until I get the entire quilt done. I have this pattern that I picked up probably in July. There are 106 pumpkins. Look at how cute. And I was gonna make a pumpkin a day, and then by like October or whenever my deadline was, I can't even remember now, I was gonna have the whole quilt completed. I have a bin, I have the fabric, I have some of it completed, and you can see that here. There are pieces, everything's cut, everything's ready to go. I got behind, and that really derailed me. At first I was behind a week, then 2 weeks, then 3 weeks, and then it got to the point that I just took this bin and put it away. I haven't looked at it since because I was so defeated that I didn't follow my schedule. So for solutions, I just remind myself that I don't have to have this quilt done this year. I don't even have to have it done next year. I don't really have a deadline. I need to get back to enjoying the process. We can always reevaluate and change our deadlines. Lie number 5, I am going to keep my sewing room clean all the time. Once it's organized, it's going to stay organized, and I'm not going to veer from that. And all of those wonderful lies that we tell ourselves. Quilting is messy. It happens. It's just the way it is. We have cutting and pressing and more cutting and sewing and threads and fabrics and everything else that our space, whatever it is, can get cluttered and messy. The reason this is damaging is because it makes us, again, guilty. And I'm just gonna say that's a theme throughout all of this. Well, almost all of it. Maybe not the next one, but it's a theme through most of this. There's also a level of embarrassment. And then finally, we kind of do need to have it somewhat organized, because if we can't find things, our experience isn't as enjoyable, at least not for me. Something I've started doing is I now clean up before I start sewing. And I've been trying that for a couple months now. So I set a timer and I clean up my room prior to starting to sew. This has also helped me because when I get up in the morning, I know I need to clean. So before I go to bed, I tend to tidy up just because I know I'm gonna have that 15 minutes of cleaning in the morning. So it's almost like a psychological thing. And it's really helped me keep things a little neater in my space. Okay, this one still has a little bit of guilt with it, but the next one I don't think is really guilt. So number 6 is I am not gonna start another project until this one's finished. First of all, I know there's many of you out there that are like this, and I am so jealous of that, and God love you, because I wish I could be like that, but I am so not like that. I really thrive on having multiple projects going at the same time. And there is, again, some guilt with that, because you're like, I really should finish this pumpkin project. Going back to that. But in reality, we should be allowed as quilters to make multiple projects at a time. It is your hobby, or whatever, maybe your business, whatever it is. You can do it the way you want to. And I'm giving you permission to have multiple projects going on at the same time if you choose to do so. Lie number 7. This one I don't think really carries guilt, but it does have a lot of other damaging qualities to it. And this lie is, I am going to stick to the plan when I lay everything out on the design board. This one actually comes from my friend Joe. I was telling him about this video idea. He said this is what he really struggles with. At first, I didn't really think I had that issue, although I have since realized that I do. Here's some pictures of his quilt and his experience with this. He's making this incredible double wedding ring quilt that's just stunning. He sent me these pictures to include in this video just to show you some of his process and how he will change things and move things around and even change the colors a little bit. I think like one picture shows beiges and he went more to whites and blacks. The progression of this is so interesting. The quilt is incredible. I can't wait to see it finished. Sometimes putting things up on the board and then changing it is a very good thing. We can get better ideas, we can see things differently. Even once we start sewing, we can change things around, and that's really a positive. However, it can derail us as quilters. When it really stifles our creativity, that's when it becomes a problem. So the solutions to this is to allow yourself to change your mind. Know that you're going to be changing your mind. Expect that. And sometimes, a lot of times, the new layout and new decisions are better decisions. And finally, there's always the seam ripper. If you get it put together and you don't like it, you can always rip those seams out. Give yourself some grace with quilting. Forgive yourself. Really pay attention to that dialogue that's going on in your head around quilting, making sure that you are recognizing these lies that you maybe are telling. This is supposed to be fun. It's a rewarding hobby. It's not supposed to be stressful. Let me know in the comments if you can relate to any of these lies, if you have other lies that you tell yourself, because I came up with a list of 20 or so, maybe even more, and had to really narrow it down to 7 for this video. Putting it in the comments will also help other quilters see those comments and know that they're not alone. Have a great day. Make sure you take some time to sew. Make sure you take some time to forgive yourself, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.